In 2011, the Vancouver Canucks had a remarkable season, setting a franchise record of 54 wins, 19 losses, and 9 OT losses, and winning the President's Trophy. However, their dreams of winning their first Stanley Cup were shattered in a dramatic Game 7 finale against the Boston Bruins. Today, the Canucks are the NHL's biggest dumpster fire, having traded their captain, leading goal scorer Bo Horvat, firing Bruce Boudreau, and becoming the most hated team in the NHL. They have missed the playoffs 8 times in the last decade and have set a new standard on how not to run an NHL team. If you're a hockey fan, don't forget to like and subscribe for more NHL content. Looking at previous Stanley Cup champions rosters, it is evident that the Vancouver Canucks' current state was inevitable. The Avalanche had 11 homegrown talents, while the Lightning had upwards of 15 during their back-to-back Stanley Cups. This is the same story for the St. Louis Blues and Capitals, who both had 14 homegrown talents on their roster during the season they won their cups. In contrast, the Vancouver Canucks only have 7 homegrown talents playing on their roster, and they have been retooling and drafting within the top 10, if not top 5, for over a decade. In fact, since their 2011 finals loss, the Vancouver Canucks have had 12 first-round picks, 6 of which were in the top 10. Since their cup loss, they've now made a total of 79 draft selections. However, as of 2023, they only have 7 homegrown talents playing on their roster, which is disturbing. The lack of draft picks in later rounds has resulted in no depth, no character, and a roster that's Frankensteined from free agency signings and trades that end up being big gambles. The Vancouver Canucks' inability to draft well in the later rounds of the NHL draft has been a significant problem for the team. Here are some real examples of this issue. 2008 draft, with their 6th-round pick, 163rd overall, the Canucks selected Prab Rai, a forward from the WHL. Rai never played a game in the NHL, and his professional career was cut short due to injury. 2011 draft, in the 7th round, 194th overall, the Canucks selected Henrik Timmermans, a defenseman from Sweden. Timmermans never played in the NHL, and he returned to Sweden after a couple of seasons in the AHL. 2012 draft, the Canucks used their 5th-round pick, 145th overall, to select Wesley Myron, a forward from the BCHL. Myron never played in the NHL, and he only played a handful of games in the AHL before retiring from professional hockey. 2013 draft, in the 7th round, 187th overall, the Canucks selected Miles Liberati, a defenseman from the OHL. Liberati never played in the NHL, and he has bounced around in the minor leagues since being drafted. 2014 draft, with their 6th-round pick, 174th overall, the Canucks selected Kyle Pettit, a forward from the OHL. Pettit never played in the NHL and has been playing in Europe since the end of his junior career. Do you agree that bad drafting is ruining the Vancouver Canucks? What's your favorite example of bad drafting by the Vancouver Canucks? Let us know your thoughts on the current state of the Vancouver Canucks. Share in the comments. To compensate for their inability to draft in the later rounds, the Canucks have turned to free agency, a place where teams can pick up players without giving up any assets. However, free agency comes at the cost of overpaying. If a team drafts and develops a player who believes in the team's future success, it usually comes with the benefit of signing a fair deal for both sides. The Boston Bruins are the epitome of smart roster construction and team-friendly deals, which is why it's no surprise they might break a record this season for the most wins in NHL history. On the flip side, if a team doesn't draft and develop players correctly, they might have to pay an extra $15 million or more using free agency. Currently, the Vancouver Canucks, who have made the playoffs twice in the last decade, have less cap space than the Boston Bruins, while the Colorado Avalanche, who just won the Stanley Cup, have $5 million more in cap space. The 2016 off-season will go down in history as one of the most disastrous free agencies in the history of the game, and unfortunately, the Vancouver Canucks fell victim as they signed Louis Eriksson to a 6-year, $6 million AAV deal. 7 years later, this signing has been the root of all Vancouver's cap issues, and in Eriksson's first game as a Canuck, he would score an own goal. It's not just about bad signings though. The Canucks have also struggled with player development, as evidenced by their lack of homegrown talent. This is a key issue that needs to be addressed if they hope to turn things around. The team needs to focus on drafting and developing players in the later rounds, as well as signing team-friendly contracts with players who believe in the team's future success. But it's not just about the players. The Canucks also need to focus on smart roster construction and management. They need to make sure they have a balanced team with depth and character, and they need to make smart trades and signings that don't leave them with a bloated and inflexible roster. Ultimately, the Vancouver Canucks' struggles are a cautionary tale for other NHL teams. They serve as a reminder that success in the NHL requires more than just a few superstar players. It requires a deep and balanced roster, smart management, and a commitment to developing homegrown talent. If the Canucks can learn from their mistakes and make the necessary changes, they might just be able to turn things around and become a competitive team once again. Don't miss our next video on the NHL's biggest controversies and scandals.